The Chozo, and how I met them. Stepping into the overworld, I braced for the usual RPG loop. Meet someone, get a quest, save the world. It worked for bangers like Pokemon, Zelda, and my beloved Tales of Symphonia. But Metroid Prime had other plans. Metroid Prime drops us into the Chozo ruins on an otherwise insignificant rainy day. No fanfare, no village being burnt down, and no promise of a great adventure ahead of us. The silence in this scene is loud. Over the next few hours, we're not the hero. The battle's already been fought. Society, it's collapsed. It's only remembered by these whispers we find along the way. We discover the Chozo through their language, their artifacts, their biology, and uncovering the mysteries left behind by a civilization who's missing in action. Exploration is rewarded with upgrades that both deepen your investigation and help you survive Talon 4's corrupted ecosystem. However, this was all secondary to my goal when playing this game. My reward had been answers. I needed answers. I needed to know what was on that ship in the beginning that was so important that we needed to look deeper. I needed to know why the Chozo ruins were so quiet. I needed to know who the Chozo were. This wasn't a first-person shooter. This had turned into something much different. A very violent Indiana Jones simulator. Except instead of booby-trapped temples, the Chozo left behind functioning infrastructure. Automatic doors, still working. Sewer, still flooded and full of bees. Even their security system fired on intruders like clockwork, which honestly feels overkill when your civilization is already extinct. Their fingerprints are everywhere, but their people are gone. Jones's motivation splits here from Samus Aran. Samus, at this point in the story, is a vehicle to explore and understand the Chozo. Her character may be inferred from her actions, such as compassion, curiosity, and more, but these are largely background to what is in front of us. The main characters of this story are all around us, but nowhere to be found. As we navigate the ruins and enter a room with a giant tree, we are introduced to the language of the Chozo. Scanning these runes all over the place activates a door that opens up and gives us the charge beam, thereby directly rewarding us for the investigation of the language of the Chozo. Directly behind the charge beam upgrade is actually a rune telling us about some of the history of the Chozo. This is our first introduction to the antagonist of the story. As a kid, imagining the left turns we would have to take to go from fighting bugs to fighting planet-killing corruption had me on the edge of my chair. Just a few moments later, we're fighting the plant of all time, Flagra. This section funnels us into the architecture and biology of the Chozo. These dishes that you have to shoot and interact with during this fight allow sunlight to be focused on a single point in the center of the room, while likely being used to grow plants. As a kid, I always thought this was a power plant, although that is probably somewhere in the Magmoor Caverns. While utilitarian, these structures give us a glimpse into the technological advancements and cultural values that guide the direction of the Chozo. The structures revered are the statues. From this bit of text, we can learn that the sentinels watch over others, guard against evil with their ever-watchful eyes. The craftsmen who make them are done only by Chozo who have lifetimes of experience in such things. Whether it is moral reminders, icons of peace, keepers of secrets, you can bet your power suit on these being carted off to the British Museum as soon as we develop the whole interstellar flight thing. What, however, cannot be carted off to the British Museum is the whole structure, although I'm sure they're working on that. In Purification, we get a snippet of the interweaving of the nature and the Chozo. There's a deep respect for nature as they draw power from it and give back to it. This state leads them to their most prized values of virtue, wisdom, and peace. We can see that the ideals of virtue and harmony have led them to develop rich temples that weave in and out of the landscape. This respect for nature, harmony, peace, and more are the backbone to how Chozo society is organized. We can see that they do have leaders, great warriors, statue carvers, scientists, prophets, and more from the writing left behind in their absence. Without ever meeting one personally, and no, fighting their ghost doesn't count, I feel like I have made a personal connection with the Chozo. From the center of it all, the Chozo ruins, the winter getaway of the Phendrana Drifts, and the industrial center of Magmoor Caverns. All of these areas have led me to understand the Chozo piece by learning about their language, their bodies, their artifacts left behind in their crumbling structures. Seeing the Chozo as many different peoples, from prophets to stone carvers, led me to understand their culture more. Metroid Prime, looking back, forced me to consider the views of another society, people, belief systems, and more. The story is a vehicle that I still use in my attempts at understanding other collapsed civilizations, such as the Mayas, Aztecs, and even many of my nation's marginalized Native American tribes. The story may be a footnote in Samus Aran fighting the corruption of Phazon, but it also was a very intimate story on the Chozo, invading forces, cultural collapse, and untimely disappearance. In an ironic twist, we answered the space pirates' distress call, but the Chozo, their call went unanswered. By the time Samus arrived, their civilization was already archaeology.